Um, Welcome to week 2 of Living by Life's Playbook. And I want to start off by first asking, is there anybody who has any questions about last week or about what we're doing here or anything like that? So my purpose is to uh, give some practicality, some practical experience to some of the ideas that I've put down in this book. I want to test them with your experience and questions and feedback, and hopefully we'll all learn something and grow a little bit together. So I'm going to change the way we operate this week a little bit from what I did last week. Last week I said let's keep the chat open and we'll put our answers in there, but I found out that it got some feedback that some people had covered their screen and they didn't know how to get rid of that. And I didn't have time to look over there and be talking to you at the same time. So we're going to do it differently. I'm not going to use the chat this time. I am going to use get more interaction, I hope. And so down at the bottom of the screen, someplace or in more is the thing that says raise hand. And if you'll just do that when you want to talk, that helps me because it moves your image over to the corner where I can see it. And even though it might be someplace else before you do the raise hand, and I can call on you. So anybody want to give some comments or feedback on what we did last week? Any thoughts you had over the week about it or questions that came up? I'm open and ready for those if you like. And I'll just remind you that what we did is we talked a little bit about how a game works, how a game has a field and equipment, among other things, and that life's a game. And the field that we have is an energy field that's we're playing with. And we're using our body, mind, and spirit to play the game with that energy field. That might be a little new concept. It was to me the first time I heard it. Anybody got any comments or feedback on that?
Unmuted?
Now you're good. Yes.
Okay.
Welcome.
All right. As I started to say, I'm a religious person, and I call walking in the garden something similar to what you're talking about. And like, I have so many miracles and so many blessings, I call them, but I haven't really focused on improving my life like you're showing and giving it joy and fun. And I kind of like those ideals. So I'm going to study this a little further, but it's similar to, get thinking positive thoughts and then seeing that, oh, you need a parking space, and there it is, right when you need it, in the front door. And I have a lot of these things happening to me all the time. And even how I met my second husband. And when you said attraction comes, I can see how that could have happened. Yes. Yeah, because we had a lot of similar things. It was very good. And I like how you presented it.
Yes, it's
So
your energy that's causing that. That's right. And
that's right.
that's what this whole book and program is about. Realize
Hmm.
it's causing whatever it's causing whatever you're putting out there with your thoughts, good or bad, whatever.
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. And if you can just keep yourself from going to the negative side, I have several people I want them to get involved with this. And I think it's wonderful. So,
Thank you.
how do we, can you give us a little more input about how to use this where we want to post it around? So when we're in the wrong emotion, we want to step up to a better emotion.
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
It's in
All right.
here.
Well, I'm going to mute myself. I just think it's wonderful, and I'm trying to put it more into practice.
Good. We'll have some practical tips and some skill building. It's all part of this. Yes. So anybody else?
I don't know how to unmute myself. You have to unmute me.
No, you just hit the same thing you hit to get muted and
It disappeared. I'm on an iPhone.
okay.
Maybe it'll come. I'll just try to be quiet. Yeah,
Okay, anybody else? All right then. So I want to go on. I've got a couple of things that I want to talk to you about. What is an energy field? So we talked about the fact that life's game is played in the energy field. Anybody want to try that one out? What is an energy field?
Um, it's your life. I think it's your life force that's coming out of you. It's an energy field. And I think that's what attracts another person to you. If you're on the same energy field, that's when you have a really strong attraction. And I feel that's what that is, your energy field.
Anybody else? Don, you've probably got some
You're
ideas.
emitting.
Well, I think what Yvonne said has some truth to it. My experience is that that the whole world, the universe, is an energy field, and that we each we create our own individual energy fields, and we can, when you use things like Reiki or pranic healing or different types of healing techniques, basically what a person is doing is channeling the universal energy field through them to someone else. And I know when I used to do Reiki a lot with people, sometimes the person on the table that was supposedly receiving the energy was more balanced than the person that was doing the technique. So it flowed, it flowed back to the one that was supposedly during the healing. So yeah, the energy field is a very interesting thing. And actually there's ways to measure types of energy fields. So yeah, it's a big topic.
Yes, thank you, Don. I agree with you. It's everywhere. It's filling all of space and it's inside our bodies as well, the whole field. And so we're reacting to it. So anybody else? Okay. So I have a question. I think that the energy field is a lot like
Uh-oh. I lost you. I can't hear you.
just a minute because I didn't say anything. That's why. All right, here we go. I think the energy field is a lot like a radio. Anybody know how to explain how a radio works?
It channels it's in the air, and the radio transmitter that you get chooses to pick the one you want that's in the air. It's like sort of like we get TV also. So
Yeah,
Talking about frequencies,
so there's lots of frequencies.
frequencies that actually they're all over, but we get the frequencies that they match. And that's how I guess radio works, if I understood well.
That's right, correct. So the air, the universe, the air, not just the air around Earth, but radiating out into space, is all of these radio signals that radio stations everywhere around the world are broadcasting and on different frequencies. And so the way the radio works is we have a tuner in the radio or TV, and it's adjusting the frequency to which it is sensitive. And so it matches up with a particular frequency, and that's what comes out of the radio or the TV. But we're being inundated with lots and lots of frequencies, and we're sensitive to all of them to some extent. We have a particular organ which is sensitive to a certain range very differently, and that is our eyes. So the light is the same as radio waves. It's the same stuff. It's just a different set of frequencies. And we have receptors in our eyes that respond to those particular frequencies. And they don't respond to radio frequencies or TV frequencies, just the narrow band of frequencies that we call light. So we're all being inundated with it. And just the ones that match our particular receptor have an effect. Great. So that prepares us to move on to what we're going to cover today, which is the next few chapters in the book. And the first one I want to talk about with you is what's the difference between, because we're going to cover laws and rules because games have laws and rules.
Mhm.
What's the difference between a law and a rule? Anybody have any thoughts about that?
A law would be something that would always be, and a rule would be something that you would put into play with the law, I guess. Wouldn't the laws be always there?
So what does always there mean?
Something you can't really change.
Something you can't change. So it affects everybody.
Yes.
So law is the same for everyone.
Right. You don't have a choice about it.
Mhm.
And so I use the example of football in the chapter to explain.
Newton's laws.
Yeah.
Mhm.
4 laws affect football. Newton's 3 laws of motion and the law of gravity. And so no player has a choice about those.
Mhm.
Kick,
Nope.
doesn't matter what team you're on, what color your uniform is, how skilled you are, or what country you're playing for. It's the same for everybody. That's different than rules. Rules you can break. That is, you can either obey them or not.
Mhm.
So in what category are those things that the government calls laws?
Well, they are applicable to the people that their government is ruling, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't break them and have do their own thing that they want to do.
So the government laws are really more like rules. That
Yes.
is, we've made these to govern how people work. Like, you stop at red lights and stop signs. Those are rules, which they will call a law, but it's a rule, and people break those. They can be broken. That is violated. All right, good. So the same is true with life. There are some laws and some rules that apply to living. And the first, and we'll treat those laws and rules as part of this. So the next chapter, I list the 4 laws that I've identified as applying to life. I mean, you can apply lots and lots of laws. Like I just made up a couple, and that is that water always runs downhill, can never run uphill. And you could say that's the law of the way water flows, but it's actually just it's an application or subset of the law of gravity, which means things attract each other, And the bigger they are, the more they attract the smaller things. And so a drop of water is small compared to the mass of the earth. So that water is going to go towards the center of the earth, which means downhill if it's higher. So that's a law, you might say. The laws of life that we want to treat are the law of attraction, which is the first one that we'll cover because it's the most important one. The law of diversity, the bipolar law, the law of bipolarity, and the law of resources or expansion, the law of expansion. So those will be for future chapters, but right now we're going to talk about the law of attraction. I think the best example of understanding the law of attraction is the radio we talked about. You can tune the signals that are coming in, and you'll only get the station that you're tuning for. The fact that there are hundreds or thousands of other frequencies doesn't make any difference. It turns out that cell phones and police radio and all kinds of other radio frequencies are out there. But if you have a regular AM or FM radio, you're only going to get the frequencies that it tunes for. So only get the frequencies that we tune for. And we do that by our thoughts. So our thoughts create energy waves of a certain frequency. And the frequency depends on what it is we're thinking about and whether it's something we are happy about, desiring or not desiring, feel bad about. And it's matching up with the same energy of things that are out there. So it doesn't work quite like a radio, which will instantaneously pull in whatever signal you're tuning, because the law of attraction works with your thoughts, and there's a time delay, which is a good thing. Because if you think of something you don't want, like you're carrying a hot cup of coffee, and you get a thought of, oh, I got to be careful or I might spill it on myself and burn myself. That's a thought of something you don't want, but you change your thought right away, and so it doesn't have any effect. It turns out it takes about a quarter of a minute of focused thought on the same energy to start attracting other thoughts. So if you notice, if you think about something for about a quarter of a minute, maybe a little less, of focused on a particular thing, then more thoughts related to it start to come. Maybe some thoughts from memories or a dream or something you saw, or somewhere they start to arrive the same kind of thing. And they say that if you focus on the same thought for over a minute, that that begins to actually prepare the way for the objects, the things, the people, the circumstances to start moving towards showing up in your presence. So just like you said, Yvonne, you want something, you desire something, and it sort of seems like miraculously it shows up. And it is a miracle if you expect that somebody's fabricating it, but that's the way the law of attraction works. That's the way the universe is built. It's supposed to be that way. So that's anybody else have some thoughts about that?
I do.
Go ahead.
I understand that. I have seen people that desire for something and it happens. Like if you go to a very busy place and you really like you don't have time and you're wishing for a parking space and it appears, but it never happened to me. I've been wishing and I have been, you know, I've been wishing for something and I'm really working hard toward that. And it's pretty clear to me that I want that, but never happens. So what about that? Is there a kind of a area in my brain that is not conscious about what I want or what?
So we'll be getting into that, but my answer right off is that there are things we can do that prevent this from working. And the number one thing that it's easy to tell is how you're feeling, your emotion that's accompanying this. So if the emotion is really good, you're happy, you're joyful about something, it's a pleasant, satisfied expectation, that's a good sign and that encourages it. If the emotion is not so good, then that's a sign that there's some resistance or blockage to what you want. And it's trying to be joyful and happy is the best answer that I have for about why that happens. So, I mean, we can want something. The other thing is when we get to the law of bipolarity, we'll see that there are, for every topic, there are actually two different energies. One is having it and the other one is not having it. And they're different. And if you're feeling bad because you don't have it, it hasn't come, that's just sending out more energy of not having. So that's part of it too.
I, I've got something maybe to add to that. When that movie, The Secret, came out years ago, and everybody was talking about the law of attraction, my perspective on that was that it was quite a lot ego oriented, and that people were trying to use it to get things that they wanted. And I totally understand and believe that if you're very focused on something and you have a lot of emotion to it, that does create an energy to attract that to you. But then the question is that best for our highest and best good? Or maybe is a better way to go through life, instead of trying to use that type of law of attraction, is it better to maybe do whatever work you need to do, assuming you believe that there is a higher power, whether you want to call it God, universal energy, whatever you want to call it. If you believe there's a higher power that's kind of directing everything, then is it better maybe to spend time connecting with that power, learning how to connect and learning how to listen, instead of attracting? I know in my life, there's a term called eucatastrophic event that J.R.R. Tolkien came up with, good catastrophe. And if you're a human, you've had a few of those. A good catastrophe is something that happens that you would never want to attract to yourself. But depending on your attitude, if you have the right attitude, it takes you to a place that's much better than you could have even imagined. And when you look back on that event and somebody says, would you prefer that didn't happen? Well, if you really like where you are now, you'd be crazy to change it, in my opinion. So that's just another little take on I think a lot of people use that concept of the law of attraction inappropriately.
So I think the law of attraction is not like a wrench That is a tool that you can, pull out and use to get what you want. It's simply one of the laws of the universe, like the law of gravity, that you need to know that it exists and that what you're thinking about is responding to your thought energy. So you can't, for example, go around and use the law of gravity to get what you want. You just have to know that it's taking effect. So be aware of it. Be aware of its effects. Don't jump off buildings because you know what's going to happen. You're going to crash below. And the same is true with the law of attraction. Know that whatever you're thinking about is going to be sending out energy to get more of the same.
Duncan, I don't know how to raise my hand.
There you go.
I just turned myself on. I just want to say that I agree with what he just said about how some people interpret this, especially when The Secret came out and everybody's like, oh my God. I mean, I was in a prayer group one time and they were talking about praying for things. I said, does this mean I can pray for a vacuum cleaner and I'll get it? It was like, it seemed kind of gross to me. It didn't seem very spiritual or evolved. So what I think he's saying is the same thing that we're saying, is that when you are in a place, a higher elevation in your consciousness, you allow these things to come to you. That's all it is. It's not that you can use it. You can't use the law to get what you want. That's not the plan. It's sort of like the scripture that says, seek the kingdom of heaven and all will be added. So that's how I that if that's the main thing I want, then I can have everything. If I just want a vacuum cleaner, I might not get it.
I guess I wasn't clear enough about what I said, because what you guys all mentioned, I'm pretty aware of. What I'm saying is, in life, and I'm not talking about a vacuum cleaner, like being responsible for your family, bringing bread to your table for your family, and you're working so hard to do that, and you use all the tools and everything, education, hard working, and this and that, and it's still not happening. That's quite different, I guess, from what you guys talking about. And I'm not saying that this is against the law of attraction or what, but I truly believe in that. My question was, is there anything negative inside me that prevents all that positive thoughts I have? Is there anything that I am not aware of that it causes all this? Yeah, for example, a human being, I think this is a normal right for everything, to have a decent job, decent income, and provide for her or his family. So this is not something that's like wanting a vacuum cleaner. That's different. And this is something that everybody works toward that, because without that, without having money, making a living, there is no other thing that you can make any improvement in. Because that's a necessity. That's the first thing for every human being, to have a comfortable life. For example, if I am struggling always over all these, by the end of the day, is there anything else in my little brain that think of beside, how am I going to do this tomorrow? How did I end up today? Do I have enough? What do I need to do to improve this? That was actually my question.
I really feel for you, because I was in that place that you are talking about years ago. My husband got very ill, and all of the money that we'd saved up to remodel a house, or I was actually going to be studying to be a doctor. We're going to go to Guadalajara, and it all went away. But what I have found over the years is that I didn't have money to get gas to get to a job interview or finish it up in Newport. Got a charge card, got the gas, got the job in 2 weeks. And I thought, it was in sales, and you were not getting a regular salary, you would get commission. And at the time I was a nurse, but I was getting $7 an hour back in the day. So that was not going to take care of us as a family. So I went into real estate with my girlfriend, and that's how I got this other job. I went into banking. And if assertive action hadn't passed by the government, I would never have gotten the job. And when I walked into that room for that job, it was 40 women. They all got up and cheered because it was the first time a woman had ever held a job like that in the banking world. So, and I got to also tell you, miracles do happen. I believe in them. I had a purse that made money. I would open the purse up and there was money in the purse. I'm not kidding you. Nobody, they said I should make a movie. Since the traveling pants, there should be the traveling purse. Just enough, not to be rich, not to be, just enough. It was amazing. That's a miracle. And I had to work my tail off. I worked 16-hour days. And my husband and eventually did pass away. And I went on to, raise the children. I'm everything you were trying to say. You want to provide for your children. And it wasn't easy, but I have to also remind myself to not ever, when I catch myself, oh, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. Pretty soon, like what he says, you aren't feeling good. So you've got to feel, I feel great. I feel great. That's the key. I'm going to make it. And I remember the book, The Little Train That Could, the little train. You can. So lots of times in my old age now, I do things in 1, 2, 3s. If I can do them in 3s, I can do them. I'll get it done. But there's a whole bunch of stuff I'm not doing. But then I'm just getting, I'll catch up. But it really, and then I'm like that attraction you talked about. I was with my girlfriends, and some person chopped me on the shoulder. It was the man that was to take me around the world. So here I go and I meet somebody. They dragged me out of the house. I didn't even want to go. And all of a sudden I meet this person, and it was like an immediate attraction. I can't even explain. Immediate. And so I spent a wonderful 23 years with that person. And now he's passed away. So back to trying to do positive thinking. And at my age, I don't know what that's going to be, but I think it's mostly I'm going to be a great grandmother in January. Yay! That granddaughter that I raised because her father was not all right, as Eva and Duncan know. I have issues with I had issues with my first husband. He was an alcoholic, and the DNA carries that. So I have a son now that is. So I'm trying to learn how to deal with that. And I think he wants me to be in this so I can learn how to deal with that in a positive manner, because I get angry and I want to not get angry anymore. So I'm trying to, because I don't drink it. I mean, I like my wine, but I don't do excess. But you know what I'm talking about. And I really, I give you, and I hope that you get blessed like I got blessed, because I just can't even tell you what a miracle I've had in my life. And I'm living next door to Duncan. So I have a fantastic view out the back of my house from Dana Point to Malibu and Catalina Island. So I really got blessed.
Wonderful.
And
That's wonderful.
I've been to Italy and France, and I married a former Italian soccer player. And so I can't even tell you. And when I was there, and I was sitting there, and we were in Largo de Como in a villa overlooking the lake, and we could see the boats going, and the Swiss Alps covered with snow, and the moon up, and I'm going, God, how did I get here? And the soccer player is called Anton, and the women are chasing him, believe me. And I'm going, why would he have picked me? You just sit there and you go, whoa. And they got spotlights on us, as we're getting, and I'm getting in a little boat, and I thought you were a poor man from an island. And, he was- and everybody's cheering, Anton, and I'm going, oh my Lord. So that's a miracle, right?
Yes. So
A
even
woman who turned
Yes,
around her home.
certainly. Thank you for sharing. And
Yeah.
I
So that's
am doing the same thing. And I'm not saying that well, it happened to me too, but well, I am wondering if there is any end to it or not. But let's just go with the flow and see what Duncan has.
I think you have to listen to the little voices talking to you. I suddenly realized, and I sometimes don't do that because I'm getting, I get tired. But if you listen to that little, there's something talking to you. It really is. And if you do or try to do what that little voice is telling you in a positive manner, I think you're going to see a lot of results. And there's going to be some miracle coming in your life. Amen. Right? Okay.
Yvonne,
Okay. Yeah.
I think the key
Amen.
Yes.
is what is your emotion?
Yes.
You're thinking about those. If the emotion is lacking, wanting, a little frustration about not getting it, that's putting out an energy that won't get it. It'll just get more of the same. So somehow you've got to climb up the emotional scale, which we'll take a look at later in the book, higher, to be a little more positive about expectation and visioning that it's going to happen for you. That is the key. Anybody else have some comments?
I do. It's Eva.
Okay.
I want to say I understand how she feels because I was one of those people who I heard about I could get a parking place, but I never did. Everybody else got parking places, but not me. So, but what I wanted to say is what you've already started to talk about is the emotional scale in the back of the book, because that's what saved my life. I was doing what she's doing. I was criticizing myself all the time. Oh, must not be one of the chosen people. I just don't get it, no matter how hard I try. But when I finally accepted myself and all of my emotions, which is what that chart will show you, don't have to wait till we talk about it. You can look it up in the back of the book. And all you have to do is start, this is so helpful. You're in a situation, any moment in time, and you say, how do I feel? Oh, I'm pissed. So you look it up and you say, oh yeah, that's where I am on the scale. And so you learn to talk your way out of it rather than staying there. And that is where the things begin, I think. Thank you.
I agree. Correct.
Yes. Yep. I mean, that's one of the things that, you can flip to the back of the book, or actually, if you don't have the book and you're just using the website, the emotion scale is in there in a future week. It's already there. You can look at it and see that's a key. I liken it to a hotel, the emotional scale, a European hotel where the ground floor is 0, and then the upper floors are like +1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are all the positive emotions. And the negative emotions are like the parking levels down below in the basement. -2, -3, -4. They go way down. And so there's no fun being in the basement. There's no windows, no light, just dreariness. You got to get up to at least the ground level and then climb up to a higher level where there's a view. That's the key. All right, good. That's what the law of attraction is all about. So we're putting out energy that's attracting whatever the kind of energy we're thinking about. And it doesn't have to come back exactly an exact match. In other words, if you're feeling that there's something wrong with your body, it'll come back as something, but not necessarily the thing you were thinking about. It'll come back as something that you don't feel good about. Or you're putting out that you want something that'll make you happy. And sometimes, like Don said, it comes back even better than you expected. That's what's happened to me a lot. And if you read the book, there are examples of that in there, personal stories just to illustrate that. So that's why I'm such a believer.
Mm-hmm.
How about, I want to hear how this is registering with, anybody else want to comment? Just unmute yourself and go for it.
I have one more thing to say. I want to say that even if this lady who had this trouble with the parking places and the despair, I think the best emotion you can strive for in the midst of chaos and misery is gratitude. Because I came from very, ridiculous poverty mentality. And but I sometimes I would accidentally be grateful for something. I'd smell a flower or something, and better things would happen to me. So you can consciously look for something. I mean, everybody's got something, even though it's a day of hell. You can find one thing and say, "Oh, I really appreciate that pink flower," whatever it is, and that's a good start, don't you think?
Yes, I read the Pollyanna books when I was growing up, the whole set. So I tried to find something from the time I've been very young to be glad about. And if there was, people wonder why I try to be happy all the time and be glad. Yes, glad for something. You can always find something to be glad about. So I think those books ought to be a required reading for people also when they're young. It really helped me quite a bit. I grew up in a ranch, a farm. So I did a lot of work before school, after school. Yeah. Anyway, I think gratitude is very important, Eva. I agree with you.
Anybody else?
I have an observation. Unfortunately, I just got on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, I just got on, and I guess my main problem is I don't know how to use a computer. I've been searching around. I just got your message. Well, I just got it, but the one you sent at 8 o'clock last night with the new connection point, and that's got what got me on. But for some reason, I got two addresses I've given to you, and then I've taken one of them away. It was the one I use. So I'm gonna get one of my gals up top to come show me how to work this thing. I'm a little confused right now. It's probably it is my fault, not yours.
So did you hear some of the talk, Larry?
No, I just got on in the last
Right.
2 minutes. No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Well, we were talking about how the law of attraction says we're going to get coming back to us something that matches the energy we put out there.
Yeah.
I know you've got plenty of experience with that. You want to tell us about any of it?
Well, I believe it. I have maybe it's one of I'm an engineer, which means I work off the scientific method. And there's a lot of things, and again, I didn't benefit for the last 15 or 20 minutes of a conversation, so I don't know what exactly the subject matter is. But one of the problems that I try to get over is my devotion to the scientific method. And if you don't have a logical explanation, then it's not real. I don't believe that's the case. I think you can not understand something, and like the process about sending out good vibrations. I believe that. But if you ask me, why do I believe that? I'm gonna have a little difficulty with an answer. I believe because I believe it. And I believe it maybe from my history has proven that to myself, that the answer always comes up for some reason or another. I don't, and again, I guess I have a little bit of a problem because I'm an engineer. What are are you fooling yourself? Well, you know what? If you get the right answer, and you don't have the explanation for the origin of the answer, it doesn't negate the answer. So anyway, that's just I'm sure I'll get over that malady one day.
Well, you bring up a very good point, and that is that trying to understand how the law of attraction works, I've concluded is beyond the capability of the human mind, because there is uh, a divine element involved that we don't understand. So we're never going to figure out how that parking place showed up. I mean, my first really, I heard vaguely about the law of attraction, but the first time that it really hit me was that I was I was in San Pedro, where I had been once before coming from Louisiana, and I had found a bakery on my last trip that had wonderful pastry. And so I'm out on a Sunday morning trying to find that bakery that I can't remember where it is. And I'm searching the streets. They're pretty much empty. It's early Sunday morning, and there's a white card upside down. I mean, just plain white, laying on the sidewalk. And something, I got the urge to pick it up. That's that little voice inside that Yvonne talked about.
Listen.
Where it came from or why, I picked it up and I turned it over, and on the side of the card was the bakery's business card, and it had the address. Now, I can't tell you when that card got there, how it got there, or when, but all I know is because I really wanted to find that bakery, it was there in my path, and I picked it up and easily found it afterwards. It's a miracle. How did it happen? There's no scientific explanation you're going to be able to give for that, but it did. And that's the way it's been ever since. So
Yeah, well, I believe that, and I've experienced that also. Maybe not on every occasion, and not with a high degree of regularity. You know, I'm a structural engineer. When you design a beam to stand up, if you got the load right and the formula right and the spacing right, it's going to stand up because it follows a natural law of physics, the natural law of mechanics. That's what I'm kind of looking for. Show me the natural law that tells me that card will show up within the next few minutes to give me a benefit. And you know, again, I'm not saying it's going to hang me up. It probably is right now, but it's kind of taking a step into an area you don't exactly understand.
okay, so the natural law is
Yeah.
that we cover in this week, which is the law of attraction. That's
And if I would suspect, like that law of attractions, I agree with the results, but don't necessarily know why what's in back of the law. But the fact is, my experience tells me the law works. Now, so as you know, and I guess if I wasn't an engineer who works off of scientific facts for the last 70 years, I may be more inclined to make that jump. I don't know if I'm making myself clear or not, but
yes,
again, it's a function of being an engineer, I guess.
certainly. So the answer is you'll never understand how or be able to write a mathematical formula behind it, because people are trying, and maybe someday they will, but I've decided I'm just going to give it up and live with it and just decide, hey, that's the way it is. And so I'm going to be putting out my positive expectations, and I'll just be thrilled every time they materialize. And so that's
I'll be joining you.
good. So I see you smiling, Lee. You got anything to add to that?
No, not really. It's an interesting conversation. I think that there are times when you just have to accept that what you've done has led to the conclusion that you're seeking, and you know, like Larry says, it's not going to happen every time, but as you said, Duncan, you don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about it, but I think it's only natural that you do spend some time with it, and I think oftentimes the conclusion is where you were in thought when this took place. So you're really trying to find this bakery. So your energy, if you didn't find it on that card, I don't think you would have thrown your hands up and got back in your car. I think you would have kept pursuing it at least for a while longer,
Yeah,
because you
yeah. I was actually on foot, uh, walking around. But so yes, and the other thing is, it doesn't always come as a result of your thought. So, what happened is that I discovered uh, that I had a desire to live near the ocean, that I had had a really long time and didn't know it. Uh, when we sort of miraculously stumbled upon a house and bought it, which was when we moved to California. And after a lot of thought afterwards, I realized what was behind, what was the energy within me that was behind this, that I hadn't even realized that was behind this happy conclusion. So sometimes some of our desires take a while to materialize. And sometimes it's sort of like the GPS. Sometimes we take a wrong turn and we just get some new directions to get back on the path, and we eventually get there. Sometimes path, sometimes we don't follow all the directions very well. But I think the important thing is just to be happy, and if you're happy, then things you want, whether you know it or not, will materialize. That's what the law of attraction's about. That's the way I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, you have time to think a thought you don't like and change it. Don't stay on it. If you don't like your present situation, if you don't like it, don't keep thinking about it, because that will just perpetuate it. You will just attract more energy for the situation you don't like. So that I have kept we all get thoughts that we don't know where they came from. I mean, they just come in, they're in the place and they just come to us. Sometimes thoughts we don't like or we know aren't for us. I keep a little something that I enjoy, some paintings or a picture of a stained glass that I did once, handy on my computer desktop, that I can look at when I get a thought that I don't like. I can go look at that, and that makes me happy and changes my thought. So I have a little cue card, if you want, that helps me do that.
That's a good idea.
Larry?
I was just thinking while Lee was talking, when I guess in the same mentality of being an engineer, I wanted to know how things work. When I started to learn how to drive, I wanted to learn how an internal combustion engine worked. And I got books, library books, and everything else I could do. I even bought, if you remember, there used to be a model called a Visible V8. And it was a plastic engine with all plastic parts. And you put a battery on it and the pistons go up and down. So you could literally learn how an internal combustion engine worked. Now, that's when I was about 16 or 17, right before I got a driver's license. And that helped me to drive the car when I knew how it worked. And then I had a different situation when it got to computers, because I didn't have a clue about how computers worked. I still don't. And so all that goes in this black box, and all this information goes in, and then the answer comes out. And how they got there, I don't know. But for some reason, I've jumped over that problem. And I can use a computer pretty well, notwithstanding what's happening to me right now. But I use it without going through this thing. Wonder how that worked. I just forgot about it. Somebody else smarter than me figured that out. And maybe that's the same analogy you'd have to use with this law of attraction. Just forget about why it happens. It just happens. And you learn it, how it happens through experience. Because I've had similar ideas. The mere fact that you and I got back together after how many, 60 years? I don't know, a long time. Because I ended up winning an award from the high school I went to, where you taught and invited you to all these stupid little things that didn't have any connection, that all connected. And that's the law of attraction.
Mhm.
So, you know,
And it's like the computer, somebody smarter than us figured it out. Place, yes. The law of attraction, yes. Eva? You're muted, Eva. Eva, you're muted.
I forgot. Okay, yes, I'm still computer literate. I'm not. I just want to say one last thing about this. The idea of the law of attraction kind of summed up would be things that we've heard all of our lives, like what goes around comes around. What you think about comes about. Those little I'm full of cliches, but those are really good ones, aren't they? There's like it's like a law that has been noticed before. I'm sure the scriptures are full of it. As a man thinketh, so is he. Stuff like that. That's it. Goodbye. Have a nice week.
Is Eva ending our meeting?
She's out. Don, you want to sum up the meeting for us?
It was a nice conversation.
Well, thank you. Let's see. Yeah, it's time. Good. Well, I hope you
Thank you very much.
enjoyed this different format. And I hope those of you who haven't shown your face or spoken up next time might do it. That would be nice too, to get you in the conversation. Anyway, the next week's readings are out there already, as well as the next few, even the emotional scale. You keep looking through it, through the different weeks. And I will see you next week.
Okay, bye-bye. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye,
Bye.
Larry.
And
Bye.
may
Bye,
the
Larry.
most wonderful things happen. Bye.